Ricoh.
All right, welcome everyone. Thank you once again for joining us in video 2 of our Ricoh and iGroup Technologies webinar series in pre-treating like a pro, how to pre-treat like a pro for that matter. If you have not watched video 1 or the first series, make sure you watch it, or the first episode of the series. Make sure you watch video 1. In that video, that's kind of the base point of what we're going to be doing in this second episode here. We've obviously talked about why pre-treatment is important, when to pre-treat, why pre-treat, what type of garments to pre-treat. We also kind of explain the difference in color vibrancy. And we also put in a little Easter egg in there when it comes to a little industry tip. So make sure, like I said, if you have not watched episode 1 of this series, make sure you jump back in there and watch that. You can find that episode 1. And of course, the YouTube of iGroup Technologies. You can find it in Ricoh DTG YouTube. You can also find it in our Vimeo page. And you can, I'm sure you'll be able to find it in the iGroup Technologies website as well, which Brian will touch base a little bit on as to the specific link as to where you can find that. Okay. So without further ado, let's go ahead and bring Brian on here. I know you guys know him very well. Brian Walker.
Hello, Hazel. Welcome back, and thank you again for having us be a part of this presentation on pre-treating and direct-to-garment printing for the new person just getting into our industry.
All right. Well, thank you so much once again, guys. Let's go ahead and jump right into our presentation. And Brian is going to take us through a demonstration, as promised on episode 1, a demonstration with the VIPER Mini. He's going to show us a little bit of different techniques as to where we can pre-treat on the shirt, the different locations, and how to pre-treat on a specific shirt using the VIPER Mini. So please, Brian, take us away.
All right, thank you again. The VIPER Mini is it's an automated way, semi-automated process for applying pre-treatment correctly to the shirt. This, and I can't say it enough, this is one of the most important aspects and processes in the direct-to-garment process. And for somebody new getting into our industry, making it as easy as possible so you can be successful, because I can almost guarantee that you would agree with this point. 80% of all the problems in direct-to-garment printing typically will stem from improper pre-treatment. And that is a major problem. Again, if you don't pre-treat correctly, you're not going to get a good print. Doesn't matter how great your printer is or your artwork, it's just not going to print well. So having the proper tools is key. And we feel that the VIPER Mini fits that billing. It's not super expensive, and it will help the newbie or the newcomer to direct-to-garment printing pre-treat correctly. And there's a variety of features on the VIPER Mini that do make it easy to do. Now, we have our pre-treatment here, and we have our feed line going into this. So everything is already in set and prepped to spray the shirts. But we'll talk real quick about some of the variations of how the machine works so that you can understand it. And it really is not that simple, or it really is not that difficult. And it is very simple, actually. The VIPER Mini is a self-propelled machine. So this back wheel here will turn when we press the button. The beauty of that is that we can control the amount of fluid laydown by adjusting the speed up or down on our touch screen or our display controller here. This controls how fast the machine will move over the shirt. What this means is the lower the number, the faster it will run across the shirt, thus laying down less pre-treatment than it would if it was running a lot slower. Now you may ask yourself, what does that matter? How fast it goes? Well, you don't need to apply the same amount of pre-treatment to every shirt. So typically a lighter colored shirt will require less pre-treat than a darker shirt. And we can link to some of those other articles and videos that talk about that. Without getting into too much detail, that's sort of the general rule of thumb. Lighter colors can use less pre-treatment. Darker colors will require a little bit more pre-treat. So with the VIPER Mini, we have a variety of controls on it that allow you to apply different amounts of pre-treatment. The first being the speed controller. The higher the number, the faster it will run across the shirt and thus applying less pre-treatment than a lower number, which will run slower and applying more pre-treatment. The beauty of this is, say for a lighter colored shirt, you need less pre-treatment. You can run it faster versus where a dark shirt, you would typically require more pre-treatment, and thus you can adjust this to suit the shirt and the garment that you're trying to pre-treat and get ready for direct-to-garment printing. The other nice thing is that the nozzle is adjustable up and down. This allows for using our quick gauge here. We can spray, say, like a small left chest, or we can zoom it out or zoom it up a little bit and go wider for a full chest print. That allows you to be more precise with your application, so you're not spraying the whole shirt and wasting pre-treatment if you're just doing a left chest. The great thing is because this can be locked in, is that the height of the spray is going to be consistent from shirt to shirt, as is the speed that the VIPER Mini is running across the shirt. This will help you get the same amount of pre-treatment shirt after shirt, print after print, which is really key to the entire direct-to-garment printing process. Once you find that sweet spot, you don't want to deviate from it. Whereas when you're spraying by hand, let's say you had a late night out and you're really tired, you might not be as precise or accurate with your pre-treatment application, which can result in shirts that didn't print well. And you're not just wasting the shirt, but the pre-treatment, the ink, and also your time, which has lost opportunity costs that you can never get back. So in reality, starting off with the right tools is paramount to being successful in direct-to-garment printing. We're not saying you can't do it with a Wagner sprayer, but if you really, really want to excel in this and provide your customers with the best prints, you need to get the best pre-treating right out of the gate so that you can do your prints correctly time after time and repeat it every single time. So we'll do right now, unless Hazel has a question, we'll actually do a demo of a shirt with the VIPER Mini, and we'll adjust this so that we get the right speed.
While you're just setting up those settings there, Brian, I do want to mention a couple things. So again, with pre-treating in general, you're taking the guessing work out by using the VIPER Mini. And when you're starting your business, you might have, and I'll say it, you might have your teenage son, pre-treating your shirts for you, and pay them a couple extra dollars here and there. When you're training them, and you're asking them to use a Wagner spray gun versus, the VIPER Mini, you'll be able to, the training process for that is just a simple click of a button, for example, versus having them, hold the Wagner spray gun and do the little motions that Brian mentioned in our first episode. Again, it's not impossible to do with the spray gun, but it actually saves you time and money and taking the guessing game out of the game, the guessing work out of the game, so that you can make sure that you focus on making money. Now, with that being said, how do we know when to adjust these settings, Brian, with the pre-treat? Like when do we make those adjustments?
That's a good question. Typically, as a starting point with most t-shirts, and we could go into a great detail on this, and we've actually discussed this in other videos, and because this is sort of an intro type thing, we're not going to get into the nitty-gritty nuts and bolts. But a typical light colored shirt, as I mentioned, will require less pre-treatment than, say, a dark colored shirt. So the darker shirt needs more pre-treatment, where the lighter colored shirt may need less. One brand of shirt may require more than another, and one brand require a lot less. Now, obviously, we can set the values here to either speed up or slow down our VIPER Mini, which will vary the amount of pre-treatment applied. But we also have a handy dandy in the quick start guide, two charts actually in two different locations. It's the same chart that shows the height setting versus the speed, which will actually allow us to set, like if we have it set to 14 inches high for a 14-inch wide spray pattern, and we need, let's say, 20 grams. 20 grams would be between 18 and 23, so it'd be about a setting of 45 on the VIPER Mini, and we could just set it for that setting, and that will then allow us to achieve that proximity of, say, 20 grams of pre-treatment. Now, I just actually got this question in an email today, somebody asking how much, okay, you have your pre-treatment, how much do I need to apply to a shirt? And I go, whoa, that's a loaded question because there's a lot of variables. In general, a good place to start is 18 to 24 grams of pre-treatment for a dark shirt on your standard t-shirt. Now, you might be able to get away with less, or it may require more, and you'll sort of know by how the white ink looks on the shirt. A good solid white means you have at least enough pre-treatment. You may actually have too much, but you'll know if you don't have good solid whites that more than likely you don't have enough pre-treatment applied to the shirt. The other thing too is always make sure that your pre-treatment, it is a wet application on the shirt. Make sure that you heat set it correctly according to the pre-treatment manufacturer's recommendations. That will just do everything according to the book per se, and you should be able to get good results.
Absolutely, that's the perfect answer. So I guess now let's jump into the demo. I'm excited to see the VIPER Mini at work once again.
Well, what we have is, if we can switch cameras, we have our foam pad, which is our platen. And the reason why we use the foam padding is if you just try to lay your shirt onto a table, the wheels are going to start and it'll skip and probably draw the shirt in. So the pad here actually gives the VIPER Mini a little bit of grip so that the wheels can motion correctly. Now, what we're going to do, as you can see, there's a button here on top of the VIPER Mini. When we press this firmly, we're not going to drag this across the shirt. What we're actually going to do is just sort of guide it, and it will run by itself across the shirt. We just sort of guide it, and that's what the handle's for. And it's funny, some people have had questions about this. Basically, with the supply tube cable and electric cable, you just sort of hold it off to the side so you're not pulling on it and just guiding. It really is not that difficult. So what we're going to do here is spray about a 14-inch wide pattern, and we'll start here at the top of the shirt, center it, and then just press the button and spray. Now, when we do this, it's going to roll to the back, and when we hit the spray length that we want to achieve, say like a full chest, we just let go of the button and the machine will stop. So here we go. Boom. And it's done. It is literally that simple to apply pre-treatment to a shirt, and we would then take this shirt to our heat press it to dry the pre-treatment and basically create that final barrier or the preparation of the shirt for the white ink printing.
That was super simple, Brian. I do want to add that, we've had a lot of amazing compliments. I will tell you that the VIPER Mini has been a saving grace when it comes to the DTG community. We've had a lot of our customers who have started off with a Wagner spray gun and upgraded, for example, to the VIPER Mini, and they immediately saw the difference in the amount of pre-treat liquid that they're using, and they immediately was able to see the cost savings there, and they immediately were able to see the amount of time that they're saving. Again, you're talking about seconds to minutes to pennies to dollars, but at the same time, if you add them all up, they become hours, right? And they become $20 to $30 to $40. And if you add them all up, they do add up into a lot of time savings and a lot of you know uh, savings when it comes to just a guessing game. When it comes to printing on your shirt, that the print or the pre-treat on the shirt will always be 100% correct. So I do want to mention that the customers who have tried Wagner using the spray gun and then jumping right into the VIPER Mini when you release it, have noticed a huge difference. Which brings me to obviously my next topic, which is VIPER Mini versus the hand sprayer, the Wagner spray gun. Pros and cons of each. And again, I know the answers to this, but I definitely want to turn to the experts. So Brian, if you could just mention a few pros and cons of using the VIPER Mini versus the Wagner spray gun.
Absolutely. There's nothing wrong with the Wagner spray gun, but let's take an objective look at it. A lot of people have gotten started with this, and even back in the early days of white ink printing, which wasn't that long ago, but I feel really old now talking about it. A lot of people utilized a Wagner spray gun, and it can still be done. The pros are this is less expensive. Okay, I will give it that, but that is probably about the only real pro that I would attribute to the Wagner set. The reason being is we're constantly having to spray, and if you're not perfectly level with the shirt and you're like this, the spray at the top is actually technically going to be less. You'll apply less up here than down here, depending on your nozzle arrangement. So let's say the fan spray was vertical and you're tilted, it's going to be less up top and more at the bottom, which can affect your end print. The other thing is like we mentioned before, is you really don't know exactly how much pre-treatment you're applying to the garment, and that is key to being successful. I recommend for newbies to actually keep a log. When it'll become more intuitive for you as you progress. But like you mentioned earlier about maybe having your son help you out, you could say, hey, we're doing these gray shirts, run the VIPER Mini at a setting of, maybe we needed, taking a look here at the chart real quick, maybe we need 15 grams. So set it to 65 and spray the whole front of the shirt. It'll make it that much easier, whereas you really don't know what you're getting with this. And like you had said, you might actually be applying way too much pre-treatment, which is added cost to the shirt and out of your pocket that you may not even realize, except for the fact that you're maybe going through a lot of pre-treatment, versus this, which is more precise and position oriented. So like say we wanted to do a left chest, we'll get this set up here. We'll lower this way down, and I've sped this up, so we'll apply about 20 grams, give or take. and say we wanted to do like a left chest area, I can actually position it, boom, done. And you can see that is about as perfect as you're going to get. Now, trying to do that with a Wagner sprayer is going to be a lot more difficult because you're going to have spray going everywhere, and it's going to be harder to get that small of an area as precise as we just did. And you can see that we did that really, really quick. The cons of, say, like a machine like the VIPER Mini is you have more upfront cost. But let's again take a quick analysis. Let's say on average it costs 25 cents to do a shirt with the cost of pre-treatment with the VIPER Mini. Okay, we're just going to use a round number here. We'll say 25 cents. And we know at this setting it's going to cost us 25 cents, whatever that setting is. With the Wagner, we might actually be putting on 30, 35, 40 cents worth of pre-treatment and not know it. So over the course of time, this is going to pay for itself. It's just basic, simple math, basically. And instead of spraying the whole front of the shirt, and we just needed to do a left chest, as you can see, if we had sprayed the whole front of the shirt, that maybe cost, okay, again, maybe 25 cents. We could say on the high side, let's go 40, just for absolute high sideness. Well, we were able to spray 1/4 of that, so our actual cost is probably 10 cents or less, 5 cents maybe, versus 25, 30, 40 cents, depending on our settings for the machine. So when you look at it from that aspect, really, what are you saving when you're using a Wagner versus a machine that's dedicated for this? When you're first starting out, getting the correct amount of pre-treatment is paramount because you're going to be facing so many other hurdles, figuring out artwork, getting used to the printer, and just all those different variables. So if you can remove some of those variables, and again, as we mentioned previously, 80% of your problems in direct-to-garment printing typically will come from bad pre-treating. So if we can remove a lot of that by making it easier even for your son, who, as we know, a lot of times may not be as into it as you are, but if you can make it easy for them, it makes your life easier and allows you to focus on the more important things in your business, like making sales and printing shirts.
Brian, I do want to add, or if you can just show us one more time with the VIPER Mini in regards to, I know you explained the VIPER Mini going slower and faster dependent on the setting or the adjustment that you set it as, but I'd love to see that in action. If you can just show us, that'll be awesome.
Absolutely. Again, the speed of the drive wheel is controlled with our digital controller here. The higher the number, which it ranges from 0 to 100, 100 being the fastest. And we have our application chart that's in the user manual. So you could actually rip this page out or even copy it. And it is available for download on our website also. But we'll zoom in here to our other camera. And you can see here that it's set at 100. And if we just press and hold this, we can slow it down to any setting that we desire, such as 0. Now, this actually goes to 20 as the minimum. I apologize for that. Reason being is 0 wouldn't turn at all. And we actually have it designed and set up so that 20 will give X amount of grams of application per our chart based on the height setting. So what we'll do here is 2 quick sprays. I'll show you a roughly 14-inch wide spray at a 20 setting, which according to our chart is about 45 grams, and this is going to be incredibly wet, but you'll see how slow that it runs. And that is as slow as it gets, and you can just see it's just beating up. Now, what I'm going to do now is I'll set this up to 100, which will be the fastest setting. And we should be able to see this on this gray shirt a lot easier. So you'll see how much faster it works and visibly be able to see the difference in the amount of pre-treatment that it's being applied. So you can see the difference between way too much pre-treatment and a super light amount of pre-treatment, which in reality is roughly about 10 grams of pre-treatment applied to this gray shirt. So that is how we can quickly and easily change the amount of pre-treatment applied to the shirt simply by adjusting the speed here. And if you adjust the height, it will change the amount of pre-treatment applied, because the closer you get, the more pre-treatment is being concentrated in that area. And that is why we have several different settings on the VIPER Mini and in our chart, so you can quickly and easily determine the correct amount of pre-treatment that you need for that particular shirt.
Thank you so much for doing that demonstration, Brian. That was a beautiful visual as to, you can see when you add too much or too little or just the right amount. So thank you so much for showing that to us. To give a little bit more of a perspective for those who are, purchasing and new to DTG and looking into Ricoh DTG for printer, for example. And again, there's many different packages and many different finance companies that we work with, but the most popular package with the most popular finance company that we work with, typically your monthly payment without a pre-treat machine, so without the VIPER Mini, you're basically going to be paying anywhere between $235 a month. Okay. Now with a VIPER Mini, it's $237 a month. So if you're thinking about it, and mind you, that's 0% financing as well. So you're not paying any extra money on finance, by the way. So if you're thinking about it, that's $2 extra that, in the long run, as Brian already mentioned, you're going to be saving time, you're going to be saving money, you're going to save yourself the learning curve, the time for the learning curve by a simple push of the button. $2 is not a deal breaker. So, just to give you guys some perspective, it's, that's basically what you're looking at there when it comes to your quote unquote additional cost. So guys, I hope you guys enjoyed these 2 episodes. As I mentioned at the onset in the beginning, if you have not watched episode 1 on the kind of intro to pre-treating with the VIPER Mini, please do so. Obviously, this is episode 2 where we do the demonstration with the VIPER Mini. But the last episode will be live, and that's going to be March 24th, and it's going to be live with myself as well as Brian as well. And that's going to be at 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Or if you're in East Coast, that's going to be 2 p.m. East Coast Standard Time. If I have forgotten anything, Brian, please remind me. Is there anything else I need to remind our viewers here?
Yes. Don't think you brought it. It was a great point, and I haven't really thought of it from that aspect because we don't deal with the financing. For that little bit of incremental monthly payment, just what it will save you in pre-treating cost more than pays for itself, and that will yield you dividends, because let's face it, if you screwed up one shirt hand spraying, between the cost of the shirt, pre-treat ink, and your time, you've more than made up the cost of the VIPER Mini for that time period. So I think that's a great point. And the biggest thing for new people getting into it is the printer is one of the largest component costs in getting started. So don't skimp out on the other small items that are just as important, but they don't cost as much, I guess would be my biggest proclamation to the new person getting into the industry. There's a lot of small things that will make your life easier and make your job more efficient, more profitable. Going with an automated or semi-automated pre-treating system is key to that. Again, 80-20 rule, 80% of your problems, if you can eliminate those mostly out of the gate, you should do that from the get-go of getting into the business, because it will make you more successful in the long term.
And that's the basic reason why we are here and we're partnering with iGroup Technologies, is to make sure that you guys are educated and armed and equipped at the very beginning. So again, guys, we look forward to seeing you guys on March 24th on our live webinar. Please join us. We will be answering live questions there as well. After we do the short presentation, we'll be answering your questions live. So make sure that you know, if while you're watching episode 1 and episode 2, and if you have some questions, you don't have to email them to Brian, save them, jot them down, and be prepared for our live webinar on March 24th. Looking forward to it, guys. Appreciate your time. Take care.